Welcome to the Be Progressive Show. It is Sunday, December the 27th. We're finally done with Christmas and the holidays. We've cast out all of our pagan symbolism, and it's time to move on. Only a few more days left of 2020, and that is what I'm most excited about. So we are live here on the Be Progressive Show this Sunday evening. We've got several crazy stories to bring you tonight. Some maggotry as usual. We got some people turning on Trump, and that's where I want to start tonight. Looks like good old Pat Robertson is, I think he's done with Trump. And we've talked about this before, but that's it. Nail in the coffin. Him and his Pat Robertson's son both are saying very similar things on the 700 Club. Let's listen to this part. I always have to steal videos from David Pakman because I don't know how he does it. He always finds these videos, and I can never find the original source. Thanks, David.
The Biden corruption has not totally been brought to fruition, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the Electoral College. And I don't think the Supreme Court is going to move in to do anything.
No.
And I think we're going to see a President Biden, and I also think we'll be seeing a President Kamala Harris not too long after the inauguration of President.
This seems to be a new common theme that's run through the maggots and the Republican Party, is that Biden's only going to be in there for a little bit, and then he'll drop out and Kamala will take over. And then she is going to unleash the socialist, communist, Satanist, any other ist that the Republican uses. And that's when she's going to unleash that plan and destroy America and eat your children. And all the while, we liberals and leftists will be spared from her wrath. It's not far off from how crazy these people are. So
President Biden, with all his talent and the ability to raise money and draw large crowds, the president still lives in an alternate reality. He really does. People say, well, he lies about
so
this,
do you,
that, and the
Pat.
other. But no, he isn't lying. To him, that's the truth. He had the biggest crowd on Inauguration Day. He had more people than ever. He was the most popular.
Pat, laying a smackdown on you.
He saved NBC, but with The Apprentice, you go down the line of things that really aren't true, and people kept pointing to them, but because they loved him so much, and he was so strong for the evangelicals were with him all the way. But there was something about him that was good, that God placed him in that office for the time he's done on.
Or God doesn't exist, or if he does, doesn't take too much interest in the politics of our country. Sorry. God wasn't on your side or Biden's side or anybody's side.
Marvelous job for the economy, but at the same time, he is very erratic, and he's fired people, and he's fought people, and he's insulted people, and keeps going down the line. So it's a mixed bag, and I think it would be well to say you've had your day, and it's time to move on.
So the funny thing about all this is, like, Pat sits there to talk about how Trump lives in a fantasy land or an alternate reality, that he's delusional, or, he didn't say delusional, I don't think, but, like, that's the road that Pat's going down. All the while that is the exact case for Pat Robertson. Exactly. Like, lives in an alternate reality, always has. He's called everything from karate, martial arts, to yoga, to certain types of movies, to Ouija boards, or to certain types of sweaters that had different types of thread. He has at one time called all of those things satanic or demonic. So it's funny to listen, and I never know whether or not it's somebody like Pat is does he believe his shtick or does he not? So, like, did he see this coming? Or like he knew, but he was just trying to, you never know. You never know what these people truly feel. But it looks like even Pat Robertson's realized that nothing's happening here. There's no evidence of any sort of mass voter fraud. This is all just a big joke to keep the grift coming in, keep the money flowing to the Trump campaign. And man, if you're a right-winger that's trying to get the evangelical base, and Trump has been very popular with that section of the Republican Party, which is a majority of it. And if you're trying to get that crowd and then you lose Pat Robertson, you've done something wrong, buddy. You've done something wrong. Because Pat Robertson is right up your alley when it comes to Republican policies. Okay, that's going to be interesting. I haven't seen if Trump has. I don't think Trump's responded to that. He probably won't. He doesn't care at this point. But all right, this next segment I wanted to talk about was kind of funny because this is something that I talk about a lot. It's funny, it's comical, but it actually gets really fucking old at the same time. Is listening to right wingers call Joe Biden or Kamala Harris a socialist or a communist, that they're a communist takeover, or now they've just all of a sudden decided China is going to be the new boogeyman for the next 4 years, and so they think that Joe's like communist or so. Joe is a good quality Republican, folks, and I tell Republicans that, and they laugh at me and they think I'm an idiot. But Joe Biden, look at his policies. There's demonstrable proof in his policies over his 3-4 decades in office that he votes very center right. He would make a good quality Republican, but that doesn't scare anybody. No one believes that on the right because they live in a bubble of delusion. But the Fox and Friends Post people here, they have a little bit of Fox and Friends is by far the dumbest. They're like the bottom of the barrel dumb for Fox News. Like this show, this is where you come for dumb. So anyway, let's watch this little clip and we'll talk about it.
Everyone is concerned this week that a government spending bill is now on a clock, ticking down, and the congressmen and senators are going to have to come together and find a way to put together a bill that satisfies the requirements of the President of the United States. Well, whether or not you think that is, at the last minute, a good idea or a bad idea, one thing you have to say is the President doesn't do business as usual. And I, for one, think that it's time. It's been past time. And the past 4 years have been somewhat successful exercise in shaking up what was, yes, a swamp, yes, staid, yes, lobbyist-driven, yes, things that produce 5,000-page government spending bills. And we'll see, as you pointed out, Griff, a little earlier, we'll see if the president's lack of business as usual works out and gets these goals accomplished. But I'm not one to doubt it at this point.
I would say, Will, that most Americans would be willing to wait a week to increase the amount of money and get out the pork rather than take, as Joe Biden wants us to do, business as usual, as you call it, get all this pork. I mean, look, these two bills, the government spending bill and the COVID relief bill, should have never been together in the first place. In fact, this COVID relief bill should have been solved months ago, but Nancy Pelosi didn't want to do that before an election and give a political win to President Trump. And that's why we're in this situation. As you know, my husband was in politics in the House of Representatives for almost 10 years. Nothing good happens with bills that are up against deadlines like this. It's basically you're holding the American people hostage. You're saying if you want your measly $600 of crumbs, you got to pass all these other special interest projects that Nancy Pelosi loves, all these stupid foreign policy programs.
So I wondered how they were going to spin that, because Trump all of a sudden has came out and then attacked the Democrats from the left by saying that 600 wasn't enough and it was a joke and he's going to veto the bill but if they didn't pay the $2,000 that Trump demanded. And I'm fine with that. I think that's a great idea. I don't think Trump's doing it for any legitimately good reasons or because he cares or anything like that. It was just strictly to, stick it to whoever it was that he didn't like at the moment. But it works, if we can get it done. And then, of course, what do the Republicans do? Nope. Right off the bat. So now you're stuck with the Republican Party looks like the party that's holding up money and checks to the American people, because the Republican president has called for $2,000 checks, but the Republican Congress people have said, no, we're not doing that. So that's a win. That's a big quality win for Nancy Pelosi. Now, what she said there about Nancy Pelosi and, how there's big pork in this bill and it's all Nancy Pelosi's fault, and that's complete horseshit. It is probably Nancy Pelosi's and the Democrats' fault somewhat, if not half of it, but there's plenty of that horseshit on the right, too. Go through and read the bill. She doesn't expect anybody to do that. Does anybody else actually read these bills? I haven't read 5,000 pages of it, but I sure did skim through all the important stuff. And if I can do it, and I don't understand why these freaking news people can't. They don't want to report the truth. That's the problem. They're actually, trying to spin it. So
that are about gender, relief and all these other things that are in there. I think there was millions of dollars for cars for aid workers in Africa, things that have nothing to do. Good for Donald Trump for doing this. I think most common sense Americans are on his side. And the only person who's saying take the $600 and the pork is Joe Biden.
But see, now here, Griff, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the New York Times calling for a return to business as usual. Politics of the last several decades. And the political lines have been scrambled. Our political future, our country's future, is not going to look like it did 10, 15, 20 years ago. We have the increasing authoritarianism of big tech. It's going to play a larger and larger role in all of our lives going forward. We have questions about free trade, the role of China. What's happened to the United States middle class, manufacturing? The point is simply returning to the Joe Biden of 2010 and the Paul Ryan or Mitt Romney Republican Party of 2012 and calling things centrist isn't going to work. It quite simply isn't going to exist in 2022, in 2021. And so my point is, business as usual is over. Donald Trump has scrambled that idea. Joe Biden cannot be who he was. What was it, 6 years ago, 8 years ago? We're now headed into a new America, and returning to the old politicians will not be an answer, Rachel.
You're absolutely right. And also, the New York Times doesn't take into account just how much the Democrat Party has changed. This isn't 2012 or 2014. There is a very powerful and growing wing of radicals. I would challenge you to say that they're not even socialists. Many of them are out and out communists on the.
Yeah, that's utter horseshit. That's complete and utter horseshit. Once again, we have all the proof that we need to call these people what politically we would call them. Because all we got to do is look at their votes. Go through, look at the votes. Go look through every single one of the Democrat votes in Congress. Go ahead. Find me somebody that's been putting up communist policies. Or even socialist policies, really. And the Democratic Party has not moved crazy to radical to the left. If anything, they continue to move to the right. There is a small portion of true progressives that are in the House, and they do have some small amount of leverage there. But the Democratic Party as a whole is by far not communist or socialist, or not even close. But these bimbo moron here, and look at this guy on the right here, this stooge. These people, they know that. They know what I just told you is true. They don't care. They have to scare their base somehow. Their base is really dumb, and so they have to go to the primal, the fear, and the buzzwords and the stuff. And that shit works, man. I mean, it just does, and so that's why they do it. That's why Fox has been doing it for a long time. So.
On the left, and so Joe Biden has to contend with that, and there's a reason why he picked Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate, because she is actually the most left-wing senator that the Democrats have. So there was.
That is laughable. No. I could just off the top of my head name you probably 10 Democrats, 20 Democrats that are way far left than Kamala. Kamala is about as centrist as it gets, honey. You to have a husband that was supposedly in the House of Representatives for 10 years, like she said, you have to be pretty goddamn dumb to not know that. But
clearly a need to make a bridge to that left-wing radical side with her in mind. And so I think that the New York Times is just not taking into account that this isn't even Barack Obama's Democrat Party anymore.
Which Barack Obama's party, or his political ideology, was center-right. Kiss the corporate ass. That he was not far left. They started that socialist shit. I mean, they've been using the socialist scare for years because their base can't define socialism and communism. They don't know the difference. They don't know what they are. These are all just buzzwords to these people that they've heard that they're supposed to be scared of. It's like they're supposed to be scared of Satan. They're all scared of that shit too. All you gotta do is scare people, and you can do whatever the hell you want. The Republican Party knows that, and they use it. Anyway, I'm tired of the whole communist socialist thing, because motherfucker, I want you to be socialist, okay? So that's not something that you're going to deter me. Okay, great, we're a socialist. Fools you. I love that shit. Anyway, moving on. So I wanted to point out this Scott Walker thing. This kind of made me laugh today. He got trolled pretty hard on Twitter after that. Last night he posted great pizza tonight here at San Giorgio Pizzeria. We have to support our local restaurants and our small businesses, okay? So this was posted last night at around 9:30 p.m. And then someone how they remember these things or find these things, I'll never know. But someone went back through his Twitter feed and found that, oops, this was taken way long ago, back in October of 2019. Yep. Why do people do shit like that? I mean, are you that lazy? I just thought that was funny. And he got drugged for it all over Twitter, so he's a turd. He deserves it. All right, moving on here. So one of our big narratives that we hear from the MAGA universe, that Joe Biden is not going to be inaugurated on the 20th, and he's not going to be your president, and all this stuff, because at first it was going to be the voter fraud, we're going to prove it, and then we couldn't. Sidney Powell failed, and there was no Kraken. Then we moved on to the Supreme Court and said, well, the Supreme Court's going to uphold our treasonous sedition, and they're going to go with us, and they didn't. They said, you're full of shit, you have no evidence. And so now we moved on to the last narrative that we're all hearing from the MAGA tree, or MAGA universe, is the Mike Pence can block the certification of Joe Biden, and he will therefore not be president. These maggots believe anything you tell them. They don't look anything up. They don't read anything. And so I saw this story and I wanted to point it out. So it says President Donald Trump's quest to overturn the results of the 2020 election have been rejected at every turn, resulting in an unprecedented string of court losses that have left the former Apprentice host and his supporters to pursue increasingly impractical efforts to remain in power. Now, chief among the latest exercises in futility is Trump's imploring Vice President Mike Pence to prevent ratification of Joe Biden's victory when the Senate counts the Electoral College votes next month. The Electoral College formally selected Biden as the next U.S. president December 14th, in which he states electors publicly cast their official votes. There is no mechanism for reversing these votes, and on January 6th, the House and the state will meet to count those votes, and under the 12th Amendment, Pence is constitutionally mandated to preside over the joint session of Congress, which will accomplish the task. So Trump has now retweeted a theory from one of his crazy supporters that's saying that Mike Pence could reject the certification of the votes from Arizona, from Georgia, from Michigan, from Nevada, from Pennsylvania, from Wisconsin, all the states that Trump has been protesting. So all of the legal experts on this have said that that's not true and that can't happen. Constitution states that Pence shall, in the presence of the state and the House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall be then counted. The shall in the provision is an imperative command, unambiguously requiring the act to be completed, making Pence's role merely ceremonial. The 12th Amendment merely designates the president of the Senate, which is the vice president, to open all the certificates, but then uses the passive voice. The votes shall be then counted. Implicitly, Congress does the counting. Fordham law professor and legal historian Jed Sugarman clarified on Twitter. So I'm sorry, guys, but ain't happening. Pence will not be stopping this. Joe Biden will be the 46th president of the United States. Nothing you or any of your fellow maggots can do about that. And that's going to be that. But man, they're not coping. They are not coping well. So they've now turned on Geraldo because he called Donald Trump an entitled frat boy. He needs to move on. And we've all called him that at some point. So let's go down and take a look here. So he said, for almost 4 years, I've supported real Donald Trump, who was assailed by leftist creeps who conjured the Russian hoax to wreck his presidency. Nevertheless, he prevailed. Sadly, he lost a bitterly contested election. Shit happens. However, since he has behaved like an entitled frat boy, so that led all of his the supporters, the loyalists, to then start attacking Geraldo, and it did not take long. You'll see there's several tweets here. He believes he was cheated. He's not throwing a temper tantrum, saying to burn everything to the ground. He wants answers. In 6 months, everyone will know that Trump won and how it happened. Sorry, Greg, at Poker Pro Greg 71. I doubt you're a poker pro. You're obviously not a political pro, because that is a really dumb take. So somebody says, you have supported who? You took a ride off his back, and now you're trying to get... It's funny, Geraldo took a ride off Donald Trump's back. Geraldo's been famous for as long, if not longer, than Trump. You took a ride off his back, and now you're trying to get to the other side to be relevant. After all, who gave you the push in your career? You are not and never was his friend. Give me a break. Somebody says, friendship means getting behind your friend, not stabbing him in the back. I'm so old I can remember Geraldo Rivera being truth-seeking investigative reporter. Yeah, no shit. Geraldo being hitting the sauce, and I'm here for it. Bullshit. There was massive fraud in the election. They all think this. All caps. Don't you ever get tired of hearing your own bullshit? Either you're with our rightful president, or you're not. Pick a side. Enough with this flip-flopping. Yeah, we're not with your president. Sorry. So no flip-flopping there, buddy. Being called a sellout. Yeah. They're just bearing anybody that dares speak the truth is just written off. You're done. You're deep state. Like that, you're deep state. You just teleport, all of a sudden, you're in the deep state. You don't know how you got in the deep state. You don't know where you came from or where you're going, but you're now in the deep state, and you now are working against Trump. That's how they operate. So, morons. And speaking of morons, who is currently being a very, very useful moron, is Lin Wood. He calls for Purdue Loeffler to be arrested. Not only not vote for them, arrest them. That's pretty crazy. Urges Republicans to break Georgia election by not voting. Lin Wood, the celebrity attorney who filed lawsuits contesting the way Georgia handled the 2020 election, seemingly suggested that the state's Republican senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler should be arrested, along with Governor Kemp. Or Governor Brian Kemp. I said that backwards. Excuse me. And told Republicans to break the election by refusing to vote. The commentary came in the Christmas message on Twitter. Brian Kemp, Kelly Loeffler, and David Perdue against President Trump and Doug Collins was accomplishing using the Dominion voting system algorithm, said an image that Wood had shared on Twitter on Christmas, and this is it here. So he's saying that these voter machines that are being used are all rigged. It's all been proved that they are not rigged and that there was no fraud and that they have nothing. But he's grifting, man. He's making money. It's hard to stop when you've got dumb people that want to give you money. So he's going to keep it up, and he's keeping it up. And it's fine. Some crazy person wants to do that by themselves and have their little thing. That's fine. But the problem is when we hit Republicans in the House and in the Senate who start following these crazy people, But everything this guy does is crazy. This is crazy. If you're a Republican, I would be pissed at him. But I'm a progressive, so good on you, Lin Wood. Good for you. Do not vote in the Georgia runoff. It is all rigged. You heard it here first. And Lin Wood told you as well. So there we go. All right. Let's see. What else do we have tonight? Oh, yes. Our favorite pastor, Greg Locke. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's basically, like they say here, an alleged wife beater. And he's got some interesting things to say. Most of them are batshit fucking crazy. And so now he's pretty mad about
But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that we are living in some crazy, dangerous days. God said in the last days, perilous, dangerous times shall be upon us. Bombs going off in our city streets, rioting, looting, a fraudulent election, wars, rumors of wars, crazy international things taking place. I'm telling you, it's happening. God is grabbing.
Let's go back real quick. I want to hear what he says here.
City streets, rioting, looting, a fraudulent election, wars, rumors of wars.
Name me a time when there hasn't been wars, rumor of wars, some riots over something, some unrest over something. Name me one time in the American history where that really wasn't the case. But he just likes to throw some stuff in there to make his little doomsday speech here more riveting.
Crazy international things taking place. I'm telling you, it's happening. God is grabbing this nation by the jugular vein.
I was really hoping he was going to say pussy. I would have liked him a lot more if he did.
Shaking us out of our apathetic condition. Pastors need to grow a spine, stop being cowards, open up their churches. Politically, we're in a nightmare of a situation, and yet I'm consoled by all of it. You know why? Because God's proving that what he said was going to happen is happening right this very moment. God predicted it. We're not going to reclaim America politically, but we can reclaim her prophetically. So when the whole world is being burned down and people are literally coming under persecution for their faith, what do? We stand up.
Man, this shit's just getting old. For a while, it's funny, and but it's sad, man. A lot of people out there like this crazy person. And Donald Trump has helped breed these people. But I'm sorry, buddy. There have been 100,000 pastors before you, all saying across all different times that now is the end of the world and this is happening and this is happening. There's been a lot darker times in the United States than what's going on right now. Why didn't it happen then? So, sorry, but you're full of shit, and what you're saying is dangerous. So, anyway, that's good old Pastor Locke. So, I just like to throw things at this, at the religious fundamentalists, the evangelicals. I love that one. I've had some really, if you notice on my Twitter account, I literally just troll these people like all day with these like pictures and stuff, because that was so done to me for the last 4 years, and I just got so tired of the Trump bullshit, So now he got beat fair and square, so I'm gonna troll your ass. Your ass getting trolled for a while. Gonna have to deal with it. So that was a popular one, yeah. Let's take a look at the Republican loser list. Let's see what we got going on here. We can always find some good Republican tweets. Yeah, I didn't really talk about this Nashville thing. I'm sure everybody's heard now, but there was an RV driven downtown Nashville, Tennessee. For about 15 minutes, it emitted a warning on a loudspeaker that come from the RV to evacuate the area, and then it exploded in a massive explosion. And at first, they said only 3 people were hurt, nobody was killed, but news is coming out now. They said they found human remains in the explosion debris, so they're not sure if there were people that were actually in the RV when it exploded, but that's something they're investigating. And they have found a residence that is in the area, I guess, that had a RV setting in the driveway that was identical to the one driven, and they have raided that home. I have not heard any more since then, but that's kind of what's going on with that. And the last thing, there's the only speculation really that I've even heard of this, and this kind of doesn't surprise me, is when I first heard about this explosion, I was told that I guess it knocked out emergency phone lines and phone lines in general for 180-mile radius. It was something huge. And now the new conspiracy theory is that this is one of these 5G COVID conspiracy crazy people, and that they actually targeted the explosion to take out certain cellular phone systems, and they actually did take them out. That's one of the speculative theories that is being floated. I don't really know if that's true or not, but we'll see. I'm sure in the next few days it'll be coming out. So let's take a look here. Kelly Loeffler, I'm surprised she actually was able to tweet without saying radical leftist. That's her favorite 2 words. Good old Charlie Kirk. He got drugged the other day on Twitter because he doesn't know how to add. They're going after Raphael Warnock a lot. Actually, they're kind of attacking him a lot more than they are Ossoff, but it's because he's more progressive. Yeah, you just see the word communism floated all the time. And so apparently this happened at the outside of... This clusterfuck happened outside of... I believe it was the LA mayor. Yeah. LAPD, $150 million forcing the protectors. Yeah. Yeah, so that looked like don't have anything super crazy tonight as far as the tweets go, but it's going to be an interesting couple weeks, I know that. So anyway, we're going to call it for tonight. Thanks for stopping by. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Tonight was kind of a tame show, but sometimes I tend to get a little ripped up, a little crazy, and then we do the Chud Talk, and we laugh a lot, so we have a good time here at the Be Progressive Show. And it means a lot to new YouTube content creators like me who's entered a genre of political talk that is pretty saturated. So anything you can do would help, and I appreciate it. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time. This is Brandon Neal and the Be Progressive Show.